baptism, it takes and pictures the death, the burial, and resurrection of Jesus. He was alive, he died, and he was raised. And in him being raised, he justifies us, and he accounts to us righteousness when we believe in him. Now, it also pictures the fact that our hope is that we're going to be resurrected down the road too. But it is a sign of the reality of what's taken place inside already, just like Jay brought up. It is a designation or an outward appearance telling the world, baptism is telling the world that we belong to Jesus because he changed our hearts. No person should be baptized in water until they have believed in Jesus Christ, until their faith is totally trusting in the one who died for them. Now, we live amongst the people that take and baptize their children when they're 8 years old. There are individuals, denominations, that baptize their children when they're infants. And they're thinking that they're buying their way into heaven through a ceremony. A ceremony does not create the cleanness in your heart. Jesus does. A ceremony cannot enhance the cleanness of your heart, because once you're swept clean, you're clean. That's the beauty of this whole thing. And so the symbol, whether it be circumcision or baptism, it takes and simply points to a reality that's already taken place in your heart. I like to counsel children when they ask for baptism. It's always fun. I take a piece of paper with me and my colored pencils, and I draw a big mound, and I put 3 crosses on it. We talk about who was on the crosses and what happened there, and then I draw a tomb down below with a big rock, and I said, what happened with Jesus? And they put him in the tomb. I said, yes, they did. 3 days later, what happened? He says, they raised. Most of the kids say that. Some of them don't. Some of them are still a little clueless, and that's because somebody's trying to goad them into baptism before they're actually ready. And then I take my blue pencil and I draw a big old circle in blue, and then I color it in, and I draw a couple of little guys in there, a preacher and a baptism guy. I said, now what's going on there? Why are they getting baptized? Some of them say to wash away their sins.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. See, they're not quite ready yet. They understand the dynamics of Jesus dying and Jesus dying for sins, but they've not equated how that cleans them completely, and that baptism is a symbol of what's already taken place. But some of those little people, they're on top of it. They've got it. I'm getting baptized because Jesus saved me. He forgave my sins. Those are the ones that are ready. They understand what's going on. Now here in verse 11, it says that circumcision was a sign, a token that pointed to the reality that's going on. It says a seal of righteousness of the faith which, my eyes just crossed here, which he had while uncircumcised. That's important, because verse 10, 11, and 12, all of them say that Abraham was not circumcised when he believed in God. So it does not come down to rituals and ceremonies that we do. It's believing in Jesus. Yes, Timothy?
What happens when you get baptized several times? You keep getting cleaner and cleaner?
You're already clean. But it's all right to get baptized a number of different times if you want to. You don't have to. But what it is, it's a public testimony that Jesus is in your life, in your heart, changing you from the inside out. And a public testimony is always a good thing. But you don't have to. Well, one time will do. Yeah.
But in that testimony, we in a sense, put ourselves in a difficult position because we call ourselves Christians, which then we're taking on the name of Christ, the living God. And yet, as individuals, we're not perfect. We ought to be very focused on the fact that now we're representatives of Jesus Christ, and therefore our behavior counts a lot. When we behave badly in front of witnesses, which is usually the case, then we're casting dirt or spitting in the face of God.
Yeah. Well, let's look at verse 12. With that thought that you've given, look at verse 12. It's talking about Abraham, the father of circumcision. That's talking about the Jewish individuals. To those, let me start with the father of circumcision, to those who not only are of the circumcision, Jewish people, but who also follow in the steps of faith of our father Abraham, which he had while he was uncircumcised. Now, I want to concentrate on the word followed in the steps, because you have this initial commitment by Abraham to God with regard to faith and being reckoned as righteousness. But faith doesn't just stop there at a one-time event. Yes, past tense, we are saved. We are justified before God. We are forgiven. We have an inheritance, and we have a new nature. There's all kinds of stuff going on back there. But when we follow in the steps of Abraham, God worked with Abraham his entire life. It was a process of sanctification where God was changing him a little bit every day. Now, we don't see all that dynamic in the book of Genesis. We see snatches and pieces of it. But the challenges that God gave to Abraham when Abraham first came to God were small. They were not real technical. They were not real dangerous. And yet, each working of God with Abraham on a daily basis, those faith-stretching events got bigger. They got bigger. And then you get to Genesis chapter 22, where God calls Abraham to sacrifice Isaac, who all the promises went through Isaac. If Isaac is dead, all the promises are null and void. Abraham believed God in such a way that he believed that God could even raise Isaac from the dead. We know that from Genesis chapter 11. And so, in having that faith that God is in total control and God's ability is such that it's beyond what we can do, he was able to walk with God step at a time. Now, the word follow in step here in verse 12 is talking about an army marching in line, step after step after step. It is a process. Growth is a process in our lives. And if we don't see that, and we think we have it all at one time, we've deceived ourselves. It is a process where God is changing us a little bit every day. And some of those bumps and rubs, they hurt. Some of them are real knocks. And yet, God calls us to sovereignly trust Him every day. We are to absolutely trust God day to day. Sometimes things come up in our family life, church life, that down the road, next week, next month, oh, we got to do this, we got to get this, we got to do this, oh no, I'm learning, no, just let today's problems be good enough for today. I'm having a hard enough time getting through the day. I'll worry about tomorrow and next week and next month. Isn't that the advice that Jesus gave? Worry about today and the problems of today, and let tomorrow take care of itself. We can do that because we have a faithful God who is in total control of all the circumstances of our life. Now it says here that Abraham is the father of the circumcised who believe and of the Gentiles who believe. There's the really famous verse that God uses, I think it's in Genesis chapter 17. God says, your family, your descendants will be like the stars of heaven and like the grains of sand on the beach. Now I got thinking about that. You have something that's astronomical and really big, a spiritual kind of idea, and you have something that's on a physical realm. You have the DNA Jews, the Hebrew people that are direct descendants from Abraham. I equated to the sands of the sea. But the stars of heaven, which they cannot count, and they know that there's more than they even thought there were. I had a news article the other day talking about how big the universe is and more stars out there than they ever thought there could be. Represents the spiritual children of Abraham. I'll leave that with you. That's my conviction. All right. But it says here that Abraham is the father of those who believe, those individuals who take and trust in him, whether they're Gentile or they're Jewish. Everyone has to come to God through faith, through believing the promise that he's given to us, which is Jesus died for our sins. Now, I'm going to stop right there because